Mr. Džoana, thank you for this interview. My first question is, could there be any armed conflict in the north of Kosovo or any incident whatsoever elsewhere in Kosovo or throughout the region in the upcoming months?
You know, after just a few days after the very successful NATO summit in Madrid, we took the decision to come with the North Atlantic Council and NATO's partners to visit KFOR. KFOR is here based on the 1244 UN Security Council resolution to do just that, to make sure that all people from the whole territory of Kosovo, they have free movement, and then that's a very strong signal of discouragement. We also, of course, talked to the commander of KFOR and our military leaders, and of course, we are not seeing signs of risks of that nature. We would say that the situation is stable but still fragile. That's why the message from myself and all of us from NATO is to all sides is to encourage dialogue. There's no substitute for negotiation and compromise, and to avoid any abrupt decisions that could eventually be fueling instability. But to answer your question, we see no sign of a risk of escalation in the region, and this is the role of KFOR to be a stabilizing and discouraging presence in the region.
Since the outbreak of the war in Ukraine, Kosovo officials have loudly pointed out Serbia as proxy of Russia to start an armed conflict, especially with Kosovo, and emphasize that Serbia is a threat to the security of the region. Do you agree to that, or do you disagree?
Serbia is a partner of NATO. We do a lot of work with Serbia, despite, let's say, some more difficult moments in recent history. And it's not for NATO to decide or discuss or comment on sovereign decisions of our partners. What we know is one thing, that Russia is indeed aggressive. We recognize that Russia is using many methods to destabilize, using disinformation, using hybrid warfare, using economic leverage to destabilize and to create problems for many places, not only the Western Balkans, in Africa, in the Middle East. So it's up to Serbia to decide its future. Serbia is a partner of NATO. We respect the decisions of Belgrade. And we only hope that in the end, the European perspective for Serbia will become also reality. Look at my country, Romania. How much the country has changed since we joined the European Union. So I strongly believe, as a citizen of the region, that all the region will be part of the European family down the road.
Pristina insists on a quick entry in NATO, citing exactly the fear of an attack, as they are saying, as the reason. This also has been served as a reason to justify the foundation of this volunteer fund for the KBS, Kosovo Security Forces, and strengthening KBS as an armed force. In such announcements, if they are to be believed, then it can be assumed that the NATO is not trusted in Kosovo. How about that? How do you comment?
I've seen some recent opinion polls, and I see NATO being trusted in Kosovo by more than 90% of the population. It could be different in some portions of Kosovo. So it is not a matter of trust in NATO. The issue is that NATO is committed to stability of the region. Recently, we have received new NATO allies: North Macedonia, Montenegro, Albania, Croatia. Basically, with a few exceptions, most of the Western Balkans are part of the alliance, and we work very closely with them. When it comes to the Kosovo security forces, we all have been saying that all of us should be abiding by the Security Council resolutions. We said very clearly that any move eventually towards the north should not be done before consulting with the KFOR. And this is the message we sent to all decision makers in Pristina as we visited today.
Kosovo authorities introduced 3 new laws on transformation KBS by the end of 2018. Ever since then, NATO has been repeating already for several times it was despite the will of the NATO, and even before the introduction of the laws, NATO warned that if the laws are to be put into effect, it will review its engagement with KBS. So ever since then, NATO has been repeating the same. So for how long, 4 years later, for how long NATO is going to repeat that it is going to review, or it is reviewing its engagement with KBS? What does it mean?
NATO is a very serious organization, and we are doing our job professionally and in consensus between 30, soon to be 32 allies. So there's always a way in which NATO functions. What I want to convey also for the ones in Kosovo that are part of the minority population is that for us the only way forward is through dialogue and compromise from all sides. We discourage everyone in the region to try to make abrupt decisions that will disrupt this sense of dialogue. We fully support the Pristina-Belgrade EU facility dialogue. We are here to help. We are here to preserve stability. We are here to find a future for everyone, irrespective of the ethnic background, of the history. The Balkans is so rich in history. Sometimes we say that we produce more history than we can consume. The job of NATO, the job of the EU, the partnership between NATO and EU and the other organizations to make sure that every single citizen of this region lives in freedom, in democracy, respectful of their rights, and hopefully part of a democratic, prosperous Europe. That's the business of NATO. Sometimes there is a lot of legend about NATO, but in fact we are a political, defensive organization that we are really trying to do our best. I fully trust KFOR, its command and its professional people here, and I've sensed it again in the visit today. We are here to help, we are here to ensure stability, we are here to ensure predictability and political conditions for dialogue. This is the only way forward.
Did I understand you correctly? KBS is gradually transforming into Kosovo Army following the adoption of these 3 laws. You are reviewing still your engagement with KBS, but your specific task is, in the meantime, to prevent any kind of abrupt arrival of these forces into the north. Other than that, anything else?
We are limiting our support to the Kosovo security forces to the original NATO UN mandate. That's what we do. And that's a reflection of the fact that NATO is observant and respectful of evolutions. When we said that no eventual participation of Kosovo forces in the north, this is something that we take very seriously. When we speak that KFOR is the one running the airspace for Kosovo, according to the UN Security Council resolutions, it's not NATO, it's the UN saying that. We mean that. So please stay assured that we are constructive, we are vigilant, and we are very professional in everything we do.
Mr. Džoana, thank you for the interview.
Thank you so much.